Welcome to RIMScast Canada, a video podcast produced by RIMS, exploring the evolving risk landscape in Canada today. This series will be hosted in 2026 by Aaron Lukoni, RIMS Canada National Conference Committee Chair. I'm your producer and co-host, Justin Smullison, Business Content Manager here at RIMS, the Risk and Insurance Management Society. Our mission with RIMScast Canada is to provide perspective from experienced risk professionals in Canada to further educate and inform the global risk community. And since March is World Water Month and International Women's History Month, we found the ideal guest. Our friend Sarah Mikolich is the Risk and Insurance Coordinator for the Ontario Clean Water Agency, and she is here to talk about all things water risk related, from emergency preparedness and resilience to collaborating with First Nations communities. So let's get to it. Sarah Mikolich, welcome to RIMScast Canada.
Sarah, welcome to RIMScast Canada. It is so great to have you here.
It's really nice to see you, Erin. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Now let's just dive right in. Much of your work involves supporting emergency response and ongoing operations and maintenance in partnership with our First Nations communities. And with World Water Day this past weekend, we often say that water is life. But from a risk perspective, what does that truly mean in practice when you are working alongside those Indigenous communities?
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much for the question. Working with First Nation communities in Ontario is very rewarding. From a risk management perspective, it does offer some unique challenges compared with municipal work, which is our primary type of client. Our water and wastewater services are designed to reflect the distinct needs, the goals and operational realities of each First Nation community. And OCWA supports community-led capacity building. This helps to strengthen local skills, so support sustainable operations and enable long-term system resilience. There are differences that come from multi-level governance, funding structures, historical context, and the realities of remote infrastructure and access issues. Remoteness and a limited local workforce significantly increase costs due to the necessity of a fly-in, fly-out type of workforce and high living expenses. From a risk management perspective, First Nation communities face unique economic pressures. Energy and chemical inputs, chemicals for water and wastewater treatment, diesel fuel for power. This inflates the operational and maintenance expenses for sure. Supply chain issues like construction costs and shipping premiums. And then there's the aging infrastructure and deteriorating assets. There's a number out there, a $349.2 billion investment is estimated to be needed by 2030 to close the infrastructure gap, because these deteriorating assets require increasingly expensive maintenance and climate-resilient retrofitting. So it definitely has its unique challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an exceptional number for sure.
It is, absolutely.
Sarah. And also, on top of World Water Day, we recognized International Women's Day earlier this month. So what has your experience been as a woman working at the intersection of that infrastructure and then insurance and risk? And what changes have you seen in the industry?
Right. Well, as a woman working in the water industry specifically, the sector has changed significantly over the past 20 to 30 years, especially in infrastructure management, insurance and risk frameworks, of course, and workforce culture. I'm proud to work at OCWA as approximately a third of our operations staff are actually women. This is a change, in the water and wastewater industry over the last number of years. And a lot of work is also done at municipalities to also advance the role of women in frontline operations roles. However, from a broad perspective in the industry of water and wastewater operations and management, it's still considered a male-dominated field. But I would say in infrastructure management, risk and insurance, changes are occurring in the sector and the insurance industry. For instance, there are more women in STEM. And technology is improving how OCWA serves our communities. So there is an increased demand for risk professionals, asset managers, engineers, roles in fields where women are increasingly entering into.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. OCWA itself has had women in various leadership roles, which is wonderful for me. Managers, VPs, past presidents, board members. And we have one of our teams is the Innovation Infrastructure Solutions team, and they are 90% women in the senior leadership and executive role. And our finance team is similar as well, which is really nice.
That's fantastic to see.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Definitely
wonderful.
great for us.
Yeah, exactly.
So, with increasing climate-driven flooding, and then, of course, we have our drought and extreme weather conditions, and that's across Canada. How is the insurance market responding to water infrastructure risk that you've seen, and what challenges are you navigating right now?
Right. So definitely risks like climate change and the impacts of either flooding or forest fires have changed the risk landscape for sure. Historically, water risk management focused mainly on equipment failure, flood damage, worker safety. But now we're also looking at things like aging pipes, population growth, climate and urban growth and expansion. From an insurance perspective, I'd say you need to look at property coverage and environmental exposures at the same time.
Yeah.
OCWA has identified areas in floodplains and have mitigation in place to protect those facilities. But the frequency and severity of events is just as much an art as it is a science. Because unlike other risks, you can't predict the climate or its effects. So, exactly. So how do you prepare? What's the appetite for risk and the expectation of our consumers, and how do you assess it? The reality is, where possible, it's a great idea to future-proof the design of all systems. However, this always comes at a financial cost.
Yep.
Yep. And weighting of various risks are custom tailored to the needs of organizations, and then geography and regional impact is very important for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So what then would good governance look like when it comes to that kind of water security? And do you think we're still short in aligning our policy funding and risk management? Because it's expensive, right?
Exactly. For water security, good governance means creating systems that ensure obviously safe, reliable, and sustainable water supply and sanitation, all while managing risks such as climate change, infrastructure, and pollution. In Ontario, things like operator certification, water testing requirements, oversight of municipal systems, they're all quite strict. And such key legislation itself includes Ontario Safe Drinking Water Act, the Water Resources Act, and the Environmental Protection Act. But there are definitely some equity issues in the province where some First Nations communities, for instance, in the north, don't have the same kind of access that you would have for First Nation communities in the south, and that's just based on geography. But there are things like Ontario Source Water Protection. It's a system that requires communities to identify risks to drinking water sources and implement mitigation plans. And then you have OCWA, a government agency and operator that manages hundreds of water and wastewater facilities across the province. We've got professional operations, technical expertise, and standardized operating procedures. All said, OCWA's job at the end of the day is as an operator to treat water and wastewater, not to set regulatory guidelines. So that's more of the province's task.
Yeah, provincial responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just being risk managers here, and especially myself personally, those type of water operations, they are highly technical, right?
Yes, exactly.
Let's take a quick break and talk about Riskworld. Prepare to connect, cultivate, and collaborate at Riskworld, which will be held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, May 3rd through the 6th, 2026. Public registration is open. Visit rims.org/Riskworld to register. And folks, we have another fantastic RIMS milestone for you. This is the 50th year of the RIMS Canada Conference. This year it will be held October 18th through the 21st in Quebec City. From insight to impact, this is your chance to create new relationships at the 50th anniversary of the RIMS Canada Conference. Booth sales are open now, and prepare those educational session submissions because proposals will be open in April. Visit rimscanadaconference.ca for more information and check out next month's episode for an update. And now let's return to our interview with Sarah Mikolich.
how do you bridge that gap between your frontline operators, those engineers you've mentioned earlier, and then our side to make sure that those risks are properly understood? Because I mean, that's an education level that I'll never achieve.
Right. Well, it happens on both sides of the fence for sure. You've got,
Right.
Communication is key. So each department of expertise must translate technical language into risk language and vice versa for sure. The key is creating structured communication, shared understanding of processes. Our frontline operators understand how the systems actually work and behave, while insurers and risk professionals think in terms of probability, consequence, and financial exposure. So it's helpful to convert those issues, like you said, into risk statements, and that's where other groups like ERM, legal, insurance, and procurement come in.
Right.
Right. So OCWA has a great ERM program with an up-to-date, ever-evolving risk register, as most companies would have, as well as operational capital risk committees. So this looks at our biggest risks, where team leads from all across the organization discuss projects within certain parameters. And then there's our efficient and very tight-knit executive team, and a supportive board of directors is always key, and they provide governance oversight. From an infrastructure perspective, though, we have an asset management program, and that assesses lifespan and condition of assets. And then we advise owners, which is really helpful. We find this is more proactive than reactive, which is helpful.
A great place to be. Yeah.
Exactly. And then there's the insurance perspective. So Aqua, the insurance group ourselves, provide training or presentations to operations, but we also find it really important to better ourselves by learning the business, the day-to-day operational decision-making. And we use that as input for a stronger strategic insurance program, because after all, the insurance team owns the insurance strategies, and then we recommend to the executives and the board.
Oh, that's fantastic. That sounds like there's a lot of work done from basically the bottom up and then back from the top
Bottom up
down
and back.
to make
Absolutely.
sure that everything is like thoroughly thought out. I really
Yes.
enjoy that. That's incredible. That's some great
Yeah,
work.
for
So,
sure.
lastly, just because I know that we have some time, looking ahead, what emerging risks should risk professionals across Canada be paying closer attention to when it comes to water security and resilience? So, I know I'm really interested in this answer.
Right. So obviously climate change is top of mind.
Right.
And then aging infrastructure for us, for sure. Flooding is the costliest natural disaster in Canada, and the frequency and severity only increasing really due to heavier participation events. There are some regions with water shortages, rivers and groundwater. This can affect ecosystems, but can also affect shipping. So, for instance, I believe the St. Lawrence River had some issues with drought, and this led to some supply chain disruptions and insurance losses. So, that's always something to think about.
Oh, wow.
For the aging water infrastructure, I mean, that's a big risk. A lot of water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure dates back to the 50s to 70s. And so you can have, for example, undercapacity stormwater systems during heavy rainfalls. And then you have treatment plants that can also be affected by climate-driven contamination. And then from an insurance perspective, definitely cyber,
Yeah.
right? Cyber threats are a major key risk for municipal systems. They can affect a water system and impact operational technologies. And then, of course, AI is always a concern. Really, AI has made the vector of threats more complex. There's the use of AI that assists us in tracking and creating predictive models. And that helps us to see risks and threats. But at the same time, AI can increase risk where you need to have checks and balances at every level of the organization and proper planning. And then lastly, I would say I'd love to question and educate more on the cost and value of water. What do customers need to know about what they're getting from a water aspect? And maybe if they knew more, maybe they wouldn't be buying bottled water, for instance. So those are some of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's that's an incredible question. What do we know about water? And we should be asking more questions,
Yeah,
not
I
even
think so
just from
too.
the risk and insurance point of view, but just the general public and across
Yep.
Canada. I mean, we're very
Exactly.
fortunate with our current water situation, but with the trends and change, the flooding, climate events that seem to be a
Yes,
more consistent rather than a one-off,
exactly.
water's a very big deal. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I really, really appreciate you jumping on the show today and sharing your thoughts. So thank you, Sarah, and to everybody at RIMScast Canada for logging in today.
Thank you for having me.
Special thanks again to Sarah Mikolich of the Ontario Clean Water Agency. Happy World Water Month and happy International Women's History Month. And of course, special thanks to our wonderful RIMScast Canada host, Aaron Lukoni. Look for a new episode every single month here on rims.org/Canada. My name is Justin Smollison, Business Content Manager here at RIMS and the host of RIMScast. Thank you for tuning in and keep coming back to the RIMS Canada homepage every month for a brand new episode of RIMScast Canada.